Morning, everyone. So today's day 17 of compassionate response to coronavirus, coronavirus crisis, and so today we're going to be starting to look at feeling. So the last 3 days ago, I had a little bit of an introduction to the Satipatthana Sutra and the concept of mindfulness in Buddhism and elsewhere, and then last 2 days, yesterday and the day before, we went into mindfulness of the body, and looked at that contemplation of the body, and looked particularly how the body was interconnected with the mind and emotions and views and feeling. So these are the four foundations of mindfulness. And we looked at, 2 days ago, we looked at how the body conditions the others, feeling, mind and views. And yesterday we looked at how those others conditioned the body. So it's like there's a whole understanding to be gained, I think, through all these different conditioning factors. So, this is what the Buddha's central teaching was, that he said, this being, that becomes, from the arising of this, that arises. This not being, that doesn't become. From the cessation of this, that ceases. So that's the law of conditionality, or pratisya samutpada, which is his central doctrine. So that's what we've been looking at, how the different aspects of the person condition each other, and how we can make something out of that. And because the aim behind everything in Buddhism is to bring about happiness and ultimately nirvana for all beings. To solve the problem of old age, sickness and death, which was what the Buddha set out to solve, the problem he set out to solve and what he did solve. So we need to keep reminding ourselves of that, that this is all about overcoming suffering and bringing about well-being. And we do that, and we can do that to the extent we can do it, and some things some things we can change, and some things we have to just accept, when there's nothing we can do about something. So this is all part of, what we're going to go into today. Acceptance is one thing. We're going to go into a little bit into expression as another. And thirdly, we're going to, I think most importantly, we're going to go into emotion. So I said earlier that emotion is part of mindfulness. So things like loving kindness or metta is tended to be sort of a little bit sidelined in Theravada Buddhism. And even though if you go on a retreat, Theravada retreat, you might chant the Karaniya Metta Sutta, which is the main scripture on loving kindness. I don't think most people do any actual loving kindness meditation. So, well, I went to a temple in London and they didn't. So, So I think this is something that's been part of my thinking for a long time. How does loving kindness fit in with mindfulness? And so hopefully I'll be able to sort of explain that today. So that's later on. And I just need to check in a little bit with how we are. So I'll just express how I am, just say how I am, because that'll make it more conscious to me and to others. So I'll just say that yesterday I was kind of trying to solve technical problems with getting videos onto YouTube and all that, and I've solved them to a certain degree, and I felt a bit excited about that. And I feel a bit tired because I was doing that a lot of the day, and I led 3 meditations yesterday, and it was quite productive in a way. But sometimes it's like you just end up being a little bit physically tired or mentally tired through positive activity. yeah. So even when we're doing positive things, it's like we have to watch our minds and bodies to, give ourselves enough rest, give ourselves enough nourishment, and all that sort of thing. So, the Buddha talks about that. Yeah. So maybe just check in with yourself, how you are. How are you doing today? What did you experience yesterday? Just how are you feeling at the moment? I think for me, I saw much more people social distancing and wearing masks yesterday, which has made me more aware of the virus, the reality of the virus, and there's a little bit more kind of slight anxiety there because of that. And got a email from my 90-odd-year-old Auntie Joan in Australia, and she, say, how are we? She's really great, but you can see there's some worry there for her in the background about her family and. So yeah, so just checking in with how we're feeling at the moment, and maybe let's just do something while sitting down. So let's just kind of just put your head in your hands, and just curving your spine over and the neck over so that you're going a little bit into fetal position. And just waiting for yourself to kind of arrive into a little bit more of an awareness of how you're feeling at the moment. This is quite a good position to do that. We're not responding to the world, we're more turning inwards. And just giving the weight of your head to your hands. In a way, just switching off from giving attention to your thinking and just giving attention to your feeling. And waiting again, and waiting, keep waiting. So sometimes we just have to give things time in meditation. We can't they don't just come on order. They arise in dependence on conditions, so sometimes the condition is time. And then just give your face a little bit of a wash with your hands. Rub your hands together. And down your legs. Okay, then stand up. We'll do a little bit of movement. Oops. So just have your feet hip width apart, bend your knees slightly, and we're just going to do some gentle swinging from side to side. And just allow your arms to just flop against your body. maybe like just enjoy just the sound of your arms when they hit the side of your body. A bit like when you enjoy it, you're just sitting and you're listening to the ticking of a clock. Okay, and then just circling with your hips. Just going to the side, lifting up one side, pushing down on the other. Maybe put your hands over the top. Stretching, pushing down on one side, pulling up on the other side. And then on the other side. Put your hands together. Up your arms. Now let's do the thing over the top there. I think this is probably what I need most of all, just to wake me up a bit. Other side. Down the arm. Onto the hand. Ouch, make it painful. Shock tactics. Ouch. Palms of the hands. Up the inside. Down the outside again. I feel my brain coming alive again. And then down the other side. Back of the hand. Palms. Up the inside. Okay, shake everything out. Okay, yeah, let's do a little bit of Qigong as well. Also some shaking. So just put your hands like that, facing outwards, and leaning over, and then just do this. Make a noise with your breath. Make a noise. Shake your whole body. Okay. Notice how you feel now. You feel more alive, or how do you feel? Okay, I think that'll do for today. Right. So just allow yourself to calm down and be in this new position. So connecting with your body and just allowing your body to just sit in this position. Just waiting for yourself to kind of arrive into your body. So again, we just need to give that time. And noticing feelings. So in Buddhism, feeling is anything that's pleasant or painful or something in between. Might be neutral, might be a little bit pleasant, a little bit painful. So do you have any pleasure or pain in your body? You know, what's the general feeling tone in your body? Maybe it's different in different parts of your body. So can you have a sense of a need to look after your body? You know, so we just did some body work, and hopefully brought our body into a bit better state. So we were mindful of our body doing that. So just doing our best to be as comfortable as we can in this position, and maybe putting our thoughts to one side, any thoughts that might be kind of just wanting to boss the body around, or sit up straight or anything like that. So just having a sense of trying to maximise the sense of ease in the body. And in terms of physical feeling, sensation, is there anything there in your experience that is difficult, that's painful, that you can't do anything about right now? I know some people have pain conditions that just carry on and are with them all the time. So if you've got something like that, or just something that's just there in your experience that you don't know what to do about, just having a sense, can you have a sense of accepting that reality, that accepting that pain? Accepting that difficulty. And just softening around it. So we're not straining to try and change the things we can't change at the moment. And one way of dealing with difficulty, according to the mindfulness tradition, is to put it in a bigger container. So whatever difficulty we're experiencing, what we do is we just look into our experience and say, what else is going on? What else can we say is happening apart from that difficulty? Things that are pleasant and positive. So is there something we can say? Oh, that's quite nice. So what can I say? I can say that I'm enjoying the idea of the air outside my flat in the morning, just getting going. It feels expansive, and I'm enjoying the feeling that came from lots of people responding to my appeal yesterday for um, to pay for money for for more data for this site. So just adding things in that that are also the case, that are true in your experience, to that one difficult thing. So to the one difficult thing, you add, I don't know, 5 or 10 even other things that are positive, that are pleasant. So when we can accept difficulty, we're in a way we're stopping ourselves from adding more tension to things. So if we don't accept something, it's often there's a view there that this should not be happening, and then we tense up around that view. Whereas if we say this is happening, or this is how things are, then we're not tensing up against reality, how things are. So we're not adding something to our experience that doesn't need to be there. Okay, so just bring this meditation to a little meditation on acceptance to an end. Now just do a little stretch. So the subject today, the main subject in a way, is emotion, and the main meditation we have in our tradition to do with that is the metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation. So I won't say too much right now. I'll say a bit later, say more later on. But the basic thing is that metta, loving kindness, is an emotion. So it's not a feeling. So it's something that we're doing. And because it's something we're doing, it's something that we're making a choice about. Well, we have a choice about. So we do have a choice about our emotions, and we don't have a choice about our feeling, what we feel. in the moment, because that's just presented to us. It's like a given, when I'm right now, whatever I'm feeling, pleasure and pain, that is what I'm feeling. That's it. That's the end of it. But then how I respond to that is more my emotion. So that what tends to happen is, like, I tend to want to push away pain. That's the I don't want it. So emotion is often about wanting, or I want I experience pleasure and I want more of it. So it's like desire, greed, that sort of thing. Is the response. So we can have all sorts of different responses to ourselves and others, So I can, on different days, I can have a response where I'm feeling quite kind towards myself, or I want myself to be well. I'm in touch with my friends, and I'm feeling happy, and I'm really clear that that's possible, and it's all great. And other times I'm just flat, and I just feel indifferent to everything, and particularly like indifferent to myself, And so when I'm doing that, it's almost like I'm treating myself as a bit of an object that isn't, or even an object in my own way, when I'm not achieving what I wanted to achieve, then this criticism comes in and wants to beat me up about it. So emotion is something that is this response that we can work with, and we can change a response of indifference or a response of hostility and criticism towards ourselves and towards other people to a response of warmth, of love, of care, of gentleness, all those sorts of things. So so in this way, because mindfulness is all about bringing about nirvana, bringing about what leads to happiness. Then, because the Metta is so key at bringing about, it's our wanting happiness. So it's so key in the process that metta, loving kindness, is part of mindfulness. It's a very important part of mindfulness, because we've had various philosophers in the Western tradition over the years, and I remember going up end of early last year and up to Dharnakosia Retreat Centre in Scotland, and I went via Edinburgh and had this afternoon just wandering around Edinburgh, and there's this statue of the Scottish philosopher David Hume, and it looked fantastic. The way that the foot was just polished because so many people had rubbed up against it. So David Hume, who he might have actually been influenced by Buddhism, because he went to some Jesuit college in France to I don't know what he was doing there, to study or something like that. And there was a Jesuit priest who'd been in the East studying Buddhists in the East, and then he'd come back, and it's possible the two had met. So it's possible that he transmitted some of his Buddhist ideas to David Hume, And one of the key ideas with David Hume was that he said, well, the main thing is emotion. It's like we don't do things because of reasons, we all know it's a bad idea to smoke and stuff, but it's because our emotions want it, or want to feel uncomfortable without it or something, so they want to cover something over. So emotion is the motivator for everything. So it's really important that if we're going to be Buddhists and do mindfulness practice, that we harness our emotions, and get them moving in the right direction. So let's do a short metabhavana, and we'll just do 3 stages. We'll do ourselves, a friend, and then the world, rest of the world. So just getting into your posture. And just having a sense of your life so far, and having a sense of how your experience has varied through time. So sometimes you've things have gone really well, and it's like, you know, everything's just flowed. You've been happy and engaged. And also the times you've been suffering and you've been lonely and, you know, you've been desperate a bit. And not judging any of that, you know, not judging yourself for having difficult experiences. Everybody has difficult experiences. You know, we're so success orientated in this culture that we just feel a failure if we're not happy and we're not having a fantastic time. But this is part of life, you know. Buddhism says suffering or dukkha is part of life. It's you can't escape it. So just having a sense of all the this varying experience, and having a sense that underneath all of that, we don't want the suffering, and we do want the pleasant experience, the meaning, you know, the connection, all those sorts of things. So that wanting is there underneath everything. And maybe sometimes we just pretend that we don't want something because it's too painful to admit that we don't have it or something, but I don't think it really helps. So just having a sense that that you really want those pleasant experiences, those meaningful, enriching experiences that you had in the past. So it's like just really getting behind yourself, a bit like maybe imagine pushing yourself from behind towards those things. So you're moving, you're wanting from something that's maybe a bit incidental, like, you know, indirect. So, you know, you might want the latest computer because you think that'll make you happy or whatever it is, but that's indirect. Just want the happiness directly, and just imagine pushing yourself from behind towards happiness. May I be well. May I not suffer. And if other thoughts or emotions come up, don't give them any attention. Just keep coming back to that idea of cultivating your own desire for your own happiness. May I be well. So in the second stage, just bringing to mind a friend, you know, somebody who's a good friend who, you know, it's just they're roughly the same age, and there's no complication like sort of sexual attraction or something to them. They're just a friend. And just trying to have a sense of that person's life and the way that that's changed over time. You know, they've experienced all sorts of emotions. You can pretty much guarantee that, you know, probably everybody has experienced like despair at some point. And everybody has experienced something approaching a kind of a feeling of invincibility, you know, because everything's has gone so well. Because the conditions for things change, it's natural that different experiences come about for us, for different people, through conditions. And just tuning into that person's, our friend's experience, seeing things from their point of view, even, you know, as if we are them, and seeing what their emotions might be from as if we're coming from the inside of them, and just seeing how they, underneath it all, want happiness, don't want to suffer. So because they want it for themselves, we try and align ourselves with that, and we try and want it for them as well. And we can imagine maybe standing behind them and pushing them in the direction of happiness, of well-being, just to make it a bit more vivid to ourselves, just that image of us pushing them towards happiness. So this is the thing that we want most in the world right now, in this moment. So dropping what we want in terms of computers, new cars and all this sort of stuff, and just wanting this thing, right now. This is what we're putting our energy into at the moment. So if the whole world started to put its energy into this sort of thing, you know, really wanting each other's happiness, then it'd be a much smoother place. So just adjusting to coming back to your body. And now turning our attention to all the beings out there in the world. So just begin with our people who are around you, that you're in isolation with. And again, just doing the same thing that we've been doing in both these two stages. Having a sense of all these people's lives. If you're on your own, just use this group. And having a sense of how experience has changed for everybody. Or they've gone from despair to invincibility, those sort of emotions, and everything in between. Seeing things from the inside, as if we're inside them. Just seeing how they really don't want to suffer, and they really do want things to go well. And they're desperate to not be in a really difficult situation. So getting our wanting in line with that, not wanting something for ourselves, but right in this moment, in this stage of the metabhavana, what we're wanting is their happiness. And imagine pushing them from behind towards that happiness to make it vivid and visceral for us. Imagine leaning your shoulder into their back, you're pushing them in that direction. And then imagining just extending this to more and more beings out there in the world. Sort of getting inside their lives, seeing things from their perspective, seeing their despair, seeing their invincibility, their joy, seeing their concern for themselves. And just right now, what we want in life is their happiness. That's our focus of our emotion right now. And again, just imagine leaning ourselves, our shoulder into their back, pushing them in that direction of happiness, of well-being. And imagine what it would be like if the whole world was just doing this all the time. Imagine 7 billion Dalai Lamas. So it's a choice we all have, to what we do with our emotions. Letting our emotions serve a bigger purpose. So, just in your own time, just bringing this meditation to a close. I'm just going to go through to the kitchen and set up for a little bit of teaching. Sorry, I'm rushing a bit here because my battery's running down to 5% at the moment. So I'm trying to get this in before it dies. Okay, so today we're looking at today and tomorrow we're looking at contemplation of feeling, and so what I'm trying to do in these sessions is to do something experiential and then talk about the theory behind it. So what we did there was I talked about yesterday I was talking about expression. So what you do. So what we're going to do today is the ways in which feeling conditions the other foundations. So yesterday I went into this a bit, about expression, about crying and laughing and all that sort of thing. But you know, we can think of the arts, you know, like expressing ourselves through the arts. You know, obviously things like that are just really positive. So yeah. So we've also got how feeling conditions mind, and what this is emotion. So you know, I said, you know, we have a feeling, it's painful, something painful happens, and what we want is to get away from it. We want to avoid it, or you know, something pleasant happens and we want to have it. So emotion there's three aspects here to mind. And one of them is emotion. It tends to be conditioned by feeling. But emotion isn't just conditioned by feeling; it's conditioned by views. So if we consider something like, well, if I just go look after myself and my own pleasure, then that isn't going to help other people. If we have that view, then we're more likely to want to help others. You know. Yeah, so the metabhavana is working up here with our emotions, and then the other conditioning arrow is this one. So this is acceptance. So you know, when we look after our body and we try and make the feeling that comes from it as pleasant as possible, but when we can't change something, if we you know, if we're injured or we've got something we can't get rid of, then it's better to accept it. So acceptance is just adapting our views so that they are in line with how things are. So if we say this should not be happening, that view is not accepting the feeling, so we tense up around the feeling of pain. But if we do accept it, then you know, we relax on a certain level, you know. So, but then we can, as talked about, as you know, putting the difficulties into a bigger container. So you know, adding pleasant things that are actually happening to the pain, any pain that's there. So yeah, so we can work with difficulty like that. But yeah, so in the mindfulness world, people often talk about the serenity prayer of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know, higher power, allow me to, you know, accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. So, yeah. So I'll end here because it might just stop the video in a minute. So so we've been looking today a little bit at how feeling conditions the other foundations, and tomorrow we're going to have the second. Every day we're going to have 2 days on a foundation. So tomorrow we've got a second day on feeling. So it'll be how body, mind, and views condition feelings. So how we can bring better feeling about. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone, and see you again tomorrow. All right. Bye.